specifically the one that is seen in the individual in the black and white jacket.
New footage just hit the net, and it's flipping the whole YNW Melly case upside down. What really went down that night ain't nothing like people thought before those murders that shook the whole scene. Melly and Bortland got caught on camera, and now the streets are whispering that this new clip could change everything. The prosecution's pulling out all the stops, and it's got Melly looking cornered. Let me break it down. This is why the state's so confident they finally got YNW Melly pinned. After Bortland took that plea deal, the word spread fast, and everyone started digging deeper into what evidence the state's been hiding in the cut. And when you really check it out, you'll understand why Melly's lawyers been scrambling like their backs are to the wall. The feds pulled up with 7 major pieces of evidence, each one aiming to prove Melly might have turned on his own crew that night. Every single piece tears apart that whole drive-by story and tries to paint Melly right there in the back seat with the weapon in his hands. But the wildest part? That surveillance footage from New Era Recording Studios. Cameras caught Melly, Bortland, Sack Chaser, and Juvie all together around 4:09 a.m. on October 26, 2018. It's not just that they were rolling as a group, it's where they were posted up that got the prosecutors fired up. During trial, one of the most heartbreaking moments came when the victim's mother had to watch that video and point out her own son on screen. What a gut punch! That footage shows Melly sliding straight into the left rear seat, the exact same spot where the ballistics expert said all those fatal shots came from. That one clip completely crushed the defense's story that Melly wasn't even in the car when his friends got hit. His lawyer's been looking tense ever since that video surfaced. The forensic details tell a story the feds claim can't be twisted. Investigators found zero proof that any shots came from outside the car. No bullet holes, no shattered glass from the passenger side. Nothing that backs up a drive-by theory. It's like the whole outside shooter version fell apart the second the evidence hit the stand. And it only gets worse for the defense. The driver's side window was busted from the inside out, not the other way around. That right there flipped the whole script.
Recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side.
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Janelle.
And Jamel, is that the defendant? Jamel Demons?
Yes.
Crime scene reconstruction expert Sergeant Christopher Williams came through in court with some heavy testimony that rocked the first trial. They discovered 8 shell casings inside the vehicle, 2 different calibers, a 40 and a 45. The trajectory analysis made it clear that every deadly shot came from the same direction, right where Melly was sitting in that back seat, not from any mystery shooters outside the car. Even the timing of the injuries made the story darker. Williams explained how both victims were already gone before that so-called drive-by was staged. That means Sack Chaser and Juvie were already lifeless before anyone started firing shots into the car from outside. That's ice cold and planned to the core. And to top it off, Melly's DNA was found all over that left rear door handle of the Jeep, proof that's hard to shake off. He was sitting right in that shooter's position. No way around it. The defense tried to spin it, saying that only proved Melly had been in the car earlier that night. But when you match that up with the surveillance footage, it's giving prosecutors exactly what they needed. The story's starting to look real bad for him. But here's the twist. Investigators didn't find any gunshot residue on Melly's hands. His lawyer's been pushing that hard, claiming it proves he didn't fire a weapon. Still, the prosecution says that doesn't clear him at all, especially since hours passed before they even tested him. Too much time for that residue to vanish. Then comes the tech evidence, and that's where things get super incriminating. Melly's phone data was pinging right near the murder scene, putting him exactly where he swore he wasn't. That's the kind of proof you can't just brush off. But it gets even heavier, because there's an Instagram DM floating around where Melly supposedly wrote, "Shh, I did that," after someone asked about the killings. If that message is legit, that's basically a confession sitting right there on social media. And the story doesn't stop there. The murder weapons are still missing. Detective Polo took the stand and revealed some serious red flags about certain items that vanished after that night.
Enough time for the heart to stop beating, for there to be no circulation due to the wounds that I examined from the medical examiner's office. None of the wounds have any blood in them, which tells me that they're all
The studio cameras caught Melly and Bortland carrying bags when they left with the victims. But when Bortland showed up at the hospital with the bodies, those bags were gone. Legal experts believe those same bags might have held the murder weapons, which have never been found. That kind of cleanup sounds like something out of an organized crime playbook. The prosecution even brought in gang expert Danny Polo, who testified that Melly was linked to the SNT Bloods and that taking out Sack Chaser and Juvie could have boosted his reputation and money flow in the set. That's a chilling motive right there. The text messages between the crew showed that tension was bubbling hard before those murders ever happened. Sack Chaser was heated, feeling like Melly was getting all the spotlight while he was the one putting in the real grind behind the scenes. Money and respect. Those two things have torn apart more crews than anything else in the game. Things really started to spiral when Sack Chaser began clashing with Melly's mom over business moves in the neighborhood. Once family gets dragged into street beef, that's when everything can explode in seconds. The prosecution's whole theory is that after Melly allegedly took out his two friends inside the car, he and Bortland drove somewhere else and fired shots into the SUV from the outside to make it look like a drive-by. But the forensic evidence completely blew that cover-up apart. The blood splatter patterns and bullet paths didn't line up with what you'd see in a real drive-by at all. And there weren't any bullet holes on the right side of the vehicle, where drive-by shots normally would have hit. The details just didn't match the story they were trying to sell. Then came their moves at the hospital, which only made things look shadier. Security footage caught Bortland changing his clothes as soon as he got there, like he was trying to ditch evidence. Hospital workers said he seemed confused, nervous, and kept switching up his story about what went down that night. And what made it even more suspicious, Melly didn't even show up at the hospital. If your closest friends just got shot, wouldn't you be there trying to see if they made it? That absence had everyone side-eyeing him hard. But one of the most controversial parts of the whole case, the prosecutors trying to use Melly's own lyrics against him.
The one that is seen in the individual in the black and white jacket.
Correct.
Did Mr. Henry have possession of either of those satchels or man purses at the hospital?
No, ma'am.
They're pushing to introduce songs like Murder on My Mind and other tracks as evidence of what they call his state of mind. That's got the courtroom and the industry buzzing like crazy. Prosecutors first tried to bring in over 100 songs from Melly's catalog as evidence, but whether those lyrics can actually be used is still up in the air. The appeals court's still battling it out, trying to decide if his bars can really count as proof in a criminal case. They even want to include a promotional video, but that's tied up in the same legal fight. The whole debate over whether art can be treated like a confession is something the system still hasn't figured out. Meanwhile, Melly's defense team keeps pushing back, saying the prosecution's entire case is built on shaky ground and half-baked assumptions. They've been pointing out the missing gunshot residue, the fact that the supposed murder weapons were never found, and even claims of police misconduct during the investigation. One major moment in court came when Detective Mark Moretti admitted he did threaten witnesses with deportation and jail time. That admission threw serious doubt on how reliable some of that witness testimony really is. The defense jumped on it quick, arguing that the whole case might be tainted by intimidation tactics and sloppy police work. But things took a brutal turn for the defense after Bortland's plea deal dropped. Now that he's acknowledged the murders happened inside the car and that he helped cover it up, the defense can't keep pushing that drive-by theory anymore. That part of the story's dead. At this point, their only move is to convince the jury that Melly didn't pull the trigger himself, a way tougher argument when all the digital forensic and video evidence keeps pointing in his direction. The streets have been waiting on answers since 2018, and this new pile of evidence is exactly why prosecutors are acting like they finally locked in their man. The tension around this case just keeps getting heavier.
And this is one of the biggest nightmares that any prosecutor could face, where you're getting taken off the case and now being called as a witness instead.
But evidence alone doesn't win a case. Convincing a jury beyond a reasonable doubt is a whole different story, especially when the streets are watching every move. That's where Melly's defense was forced to pull off their boldest, most desperate play yet to try and save his life. With Bortland's plea deal basically confirming that the murders happened inside the car and that he helped cover it up, the defense had to throw out their old strategy and start from scratch. This twist exposed cracks on both sides, the prosecution and the defense, and showed just how chaotic things really got behind the scenes. From the start, Melly's legal team stirred up massive controversy in the hip-hop world during the 2023 trial. Defense attorney David Howard straight up pointed the finger at Bortland, blaming him for the murders. He told the jury those were Bortland's lies. He lied about where it happened, how it happened, and even about having the phone. That move set off shockwaves. People were saying Melly's own team was basically snitching on his co-defendant. The streets were quick to react, calling out how wild it looked for a defense team to shift all the blame onto a man who was supposed to be on the same side. Social media lit up with posts saying stuff like, YNW Melly and his defense put all the blame on Bortland in the first trial, so technically they both told. Others brought up how Melly's lawyer tried to paint Bortland as the real shooter in his opening statement, and now, with Bortland cutting a deal and cooperating, folks are saying there's no way he doesn't turn state against Melly this time. The energy around this retrial feels explosive, like both sides are ready to throw anyone under the bus to walk out clean. The defense came swinging with a strategy built on a few key arguments that had the whole scene split down the middle. Attorney David Howard made it clear, Bortland tested positive for gunshot residue, while Melly didn't. They argued that was proof Bortland was the one who actually fired those shots, not Melly. It was their strongest card, and they played it hard in court. The defense only brought one witness to the stand, Melly's close friend, Adrian A.D. Davis. He testified that Melly was at home, knocked out when the shooting went down. Davis said he found out about the murders at the same time Melly did, and that when they got the news, Melly was just chilling in shorts and a t-shirt. That testimony was meant to show he couldn't have been anywhere near the crime scene.
Bortland is not going to be a flipper, and he is not going to be the cheese eater I previously said that he could become. And he is going to give a statement. I don't know what that statement's going to be, but his attorney is an excellent attorney. He's one of my good friends and really helped me out as a young attorney. Fred Haddad, a great guy. And he represented very, very...
Howard and his team then went all in on attacking the police investigation. They accused Detective Mark Moretti of being obsessed with pinning the case on Melly just because of his fame and his street status. The defense highlighted how Moretti admitted in court that he threatened witnesses with jail time and deportation, a move that raised serious questions about whether the entire investigation could be trusted. That revelation had people in the streets saying the case was dirty from the jump. But the chaos didn't stop there, because the prosecution had its own major scandal. In a wild twist, lead prosecutor Christine Bradley was removed from the case after being accused of hiding evidence from the defense. The situation involved a police witness who allegedly told another officer to lie about being present during a search warrant. That's next-level shady. Legal expert Melba Pearson broke it down, saying this was a massive development in the case. The defense pushed hard to get Bradley taken off so they could call her as a witness to expose the detective who was caught lying. And it worked. The judge approved it. But that move threw the whole prosecution into chaos, forcing brand new prosecutors to jump in and learn 5 years of complex case details right before retrial. Meanwhile, Melly's defense team was dealing with their own mess behind the scenes, trying to stay afloat while everything around them was crumbling. In August 2025, things took another wild turn. YNW Melly fired his entire legal team right in the middle of a prosecutor's investigation into witness tampering. His new attorneys, Carrie Hua and Drew Findling, stepped into a straight-up storm. The case had already exploded in complexity after Bortland's plea deal, and now the new team had to clean up the chaos left behind. Reports on the street say Melly blamed the switch-up on prosecutorial interference, but the exact reasons behind his lawyers getting dropped are still murky. Nobody really knows what went down behind closed doors. With Bortland no longer a co-defendant, the defense lost one of their biggest strategic advantages. Attorney Bradford Cohen broke it down, explaining how that shift completely changed the game.
Said Bortland could now be called as a witness in Melly's upcoming trial. He could testify for Melly or against Melly. But my guess is if he's agreeing to do a proffer, he's going to snitch. I expect that to be the case, Phillips said. If they subpoena him, he can no longer take the Fifth Amendment on these.
Without Bortland on trial beside him, Melly's team couldn't share defenses or point fingers the same way anymore. It was every man for himself now. Meanwhile, legal commentators and folks in the culture started calling out how fans keep riding hard for celebrities, no matter what the evidence says. The argument was simple. Fame shouldn't overshadow facts. But in cases like this, emotion always runs deep in the streets. Despite all the legal shakeups and new strategies, the core evidence hasn't changed one bit. That same surveillance footage still shows Melly sliding into the shooter's seat. The ballistics still destroy the whole drive-by theory. And the digital data still places Melly's phone right at the murder scene. What's changed is how the law looks at all that evidence, especially now that Bortland's plea confirms the murders went down inside the car. The defense can't deny it anymore, and they can't sell that fake drive-by story either. When your day one flips like that, man, that's when everything gets ugly fast. I'm telling you, This YNW Melly situation turned from complicated to chaotic in a heartbeat. Then came September 9th, 2025, the day that shook the whole case. YNW Bortland walked into that Broward County courtroom and took a plea deal that left everybody stunned. The hood couldn't believe it. Even Judge Michael Houston looked straight up baffled as the deal went down in real time. This wasn't just some regular plea deal, this was wild. We're talking about a man who was staring down 2 first-degree murder charges, facing either life behind bars or possibly the chair. And somehow, YNW Bortland walked away with only 10 years in prison and 6 more on probation. That's not just luck. That's finessing the system on a whole new level. For years, both Melly and Bortland stood firm on their innocence.
The deal that hurt my look like giving a how y'all feel. I'm a young fly, be back to raising hell.
Melly's first trial back in 2023 ended with a hung jury. 9 jurors said not guilty, while 3 held out for guilty. That split gave his camp hope, and the retrial was locked in for January 2027, giving his new legal team plenty of time to rebuild their defense. But then September 9th, 2025 rolled around and everything changed in an instant. The courtroom vibe that day was heavy and quiet, almost sad. Only about 8 people showed up to support Bortland, Melly's mom and little brother among them. No sign of 100K track, and nobody from Juvie or Sack Chasers families came through. The energy in that room? Straight up empty, like the whole crew had vanished. Now here's where things got crazy. The plea deal itself was simple, but deadly strategic. Bortland pled guilty to accessory after the fact and witness tampering, while the murder charges that could have put him away for life were dropped. On paper, he came out lucky, but it's what came with the deal that had the whole hood buzzing. See, this wasn't just a plea. It came with a proffer agreement. That means the feds wanted Bortland to sit down and talk. Basically, spill some inside info about what really went down that night. Legal analyst Bruce Rivers broke it down, saying that in street terms, it meant the prosecutors were giving him a chance to trade info for leniency. Phillips, the lawyer representing one of the victims' families, said Bortland's decision to cooperate could be the final key prosecutors needed to finally nail Melly once and for all. But Bortland's lawyer, Fred Haddad, wasn't having any of that snitch talk. He went on record saying, "I don't represent snitches," and insisted Bortland wasn't about to throw Melly under the bus. Still, everyone in the streets knows, once a deal like that hits the table, the tension gets real. No one knows what was said behind those closed doors, but one thing's for sure, that September 9th plea deal shook the case to its core. Bortland's lawyer came out quick, saying the proffer deal was limited, meaning it wouldn't involve him testifying in court against Melly.
It's important, and this is a homicide case, this is a high stakes case. You want to ensure that there is integrity in the prosecution of this case because this family does deserve justice, and there isn't a person that deserves to be wrongfully convicted or in prison.
But that didn't stop the confusion that exploded in the streets. Some folks were convinced this was straight up snitching, while others said it was just smart survival, doing what you gotta do when the system's got you cornered. Reporter Seti Nash, who was actually in the courtroom that day, cleared up a lot of the noise. According to his inside scoop, the cooperation part of the deal was minimal. It wasn't like Bortland was about to take the stand and point fingers at Melly. Nash's reporting basically contradicted all those early street rumors, claiming Bortland had turned full-blown informant. Still, the timing of the plea had everybody side-eyeing the situation. They had around 250 potential jurors ready to pull up the next morning, with thousands already poured into prepping for trial. And then, out of nowhere, Bortland folds at the last second. To the hood, it looked like either his lawyers panicked or the prosecution dropped an offer so good he couldn't walk away from it. Either way, the move shocked everybody watching. But what really had people talking came after the sentencing. The very next day, Bortland hopped on a jail phone and dropped a freestyle that went viral overnight. The whole internet was lit, trying to decode every bar, every line. That freestyle was his message to the streets, a way of saying, "I didn't flip on my people." Even though he took a deal that some saw as betrayal, he wanted everyone to know he wasn't about to sell out his boy to save himself. Through his bars, he basically said he did what he had to do to survive a system built to break him, but he wasn't gonna help put Melly on death row. The message was loud, defiant, and emotional. A man trying to balance survival with loyalty, while the world debated whether he'd just played the game or broken its deepest code. Just days after that plea went down, Bortland was shipped off to state prison. First thing they did, shaved off his dreads and hit him with that standard intake routine. Going from a rising rap star to straight up state property, That's a cold reality check that'll humble any young hustler, no matter how much fame or money they had on the outside.
You guys are so criminal-minded and caught up into this street culture where black people aren't even smart anymore. They think everybody.
But DJ Academics had a different take on all this, and his breakdown had the hip-hop world thinking hard. Academics pointed out something a lot of folks in the streets completely missed. Even though Bortland didn't testify against Melly, his plea deal still confirmed one crucial thing, that the murders happened inside the car and that he helped cover it up afterward. That one admission alone could crush Melly's entire defense. His legal team had spent years pushing that drive-by story to explain everything. And now, with Bortland's own plea saying the opposite, that argument doesn't hold weight anymore. It's a quiet but deadly hit to Melly's case, and Academics made sure everyone understood how deep that damage ran. The hip-hop community split right down the middle after that. In a culture where snitching is one of the biggest taboos, people didn't know how to label Bortland. Some were saying he broke the code and sold out his day one. Others argued he just played it smart, protecting himself from a lifetime behind bars when the system already had him cornered. Then came Charleston White. Never shy about speaking his mind, he jumped into the conversation with his usual raw honesty, calling out how the streets glorify loyalty over accountability. His take had folks fired up, but it hit home for a lot of people. Charleston's message was simple but harsh. If you really did take out your own crew, you should face the consequences, no matter your fame, talent, or hood reputation. He said, being real don't mean covering up evil. That takes split fans even more, showing how deep the lines were drawn in this case. With Bortland no longer Melly's co-defendant and possibly offering some level of cooperation to the state, the whole case shifted once again. What started as a brotherhood was now a legal war, and every move one man made had the power to bury the other. Melly's defense team was now up against a whole new kind of pressure from the state. His retrial, which was supposed to happen sooner, got pushed back to January 2027, all because of ongoing appeals about what evidence can even be used.
I'm not quite sure how your lawyers managed to do this, but I wish you good luck, sir.
The appeals court still has to decide if prosecutors can bring in all that tech evidence, stuff like phone data, messages, and online activity, to prove Melly's alleged motives, his ties to certain groups, and what they call his state of mind. These legal delays are throwing curveballs at everyone involved. The new prosecutors have to catch up on thousands of pages of records, evidence logs, and witness statements from the first trial, while Melly's fresh defense squad is scrambling to rebuild their entire playbook now that Bortland's no longer by his side. With that plea deal on record, they can't use the same old angles. They gotta start from scratch. But even with all the courtroom drama and legal stalling, the heart of the case hasn't changed. Melly is still staring down 2 counts of first-degree murder and could face the death penalty if convicted. And under Florida's new law, it only takes 8 jurors to vote for execution, not all 12. That change makes the situation even more dangerous for him, especially with how divided the public already is. This case isn't just about legal arguments anymore. It's about how people define justice in the streets. For the families of Anthony Williams, aka Juvie, and Christopher Thomas Jr., aka Sack Chaser, justice means seeing someone held accountable for the loss of their sons. But for Melly's supporters, it's about protecting a man they believe is being railroaded, making sure an innocent artist doesn't get executed for crimes he didn't commit. And then there's the bigger picture, the question of fairness itself. The community wants a trial that runs on facts, not feelings, fame, or headlines. They want a verdict based on real evidence, not public opinion or internet drama. Legal analyst Safa Robinson-Farah summed it up perfectly, saying this retrial isn't just about Melly's future. It's about whether the justice system can handle a case this explosive the right way.
To me, looked like on the 19th case as to the 2 counts for accessory after the fact as well as to all 4 counts in the 23 case. These are going to be adjudication, 10 years Florida State prison, followed by...
2 young lives were lost on October 26, 2018, and 2 families have been carrying that pain ever since. YNW Bortland is now set to spend years behind bars for admitting his role in covering up the crime, while YNW Melly is still facing the fight of his life, with the death penalty hanging over his head if he's found guilty. The question that keeps echoing through the streets is simple but haunting. Will real justice ever be served? This retrial is shaping up to be unlike anything we've seen before. New prosecutors, a new defense team, and a totally shifted legal battlefield are about to collide in a courtroom that's been waiting almost a decade for answers. The 2027 trial won't just be a repeat of what went down in 2023, it's going to be a whole new chapter with even higher stakes and deeper emotions. But at the heart of all this, the same questions still burn. What really happened on that night in 2018? Who actually pulled that trigger that ended 2 young lives? And can the justice system finally deliver closure to the families while making sure the right person takes the fall? Only time will tell when YNW Melly steps back into court in January 2027. Until then, the world will keep watching, the fans will keep arguing, and the streets will keep talking about one of hip-hop's most shocking murder cases ever. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Tell us what you think really went down that night. Your take might just spark the next big debate.